It's the Massena Raiders Coaches Show featuring Coach Taylor Zappia, our varsity football coach here in Massena. I want to say good afternoon to Coach Zappia. How's it going?
Good, Elijah. Thanks for having me again.
Well, I am very excited to be talking with you, my friend. Obviously, a huge victory last week over Saranac Lake, 24-14. Raiders fans are still excited about that. What can you tell us about your impressions from last week?
You know, they showed their athleticism, showed some good toughness. I thought some things were a little sloppy that we're trying to clean up that we tried to clean up this week, and I think we did a good job of it. As far as like substitutions, stuff like that, we got guys that, we keep telling ourselves that this is, it's week 2, it's still early in the year, so. We had a couple mishaps on substitutions, and a couple guys didn't know certain positions, but that's kind of on us as a coaching staff to get these guys, learning different positions. So in the middle of the game, we can sub guys in because I have a lot of athletes, and I told them I need to be able to put you at different positions. So.
All right, and as far as like a major positive, did you have any from last week's game?
Yeah, I think they're picking up the offense very well offensively. I thought defensively we played very tough. Like I said last week, I'm a firm believer that toughness wins high school football games. So I'm glad that we showed that we are going to compete and we are going to show grit and toughness. And then just kind of X's and O's, they picked it up very well. I told them it's going to be, we ran some very simple concepts and they were able to grasp it. A couple mishaps on offense, but we fixed those this week, and hopefully it's going to be, we build on that, and each week it gets even better.
Now, Coach Zappia, I'm sure you don't really look at the stats too much because that's a lot of the outside noise that we always hear coaches say they try to block out. But I do know statewide right now, and granted, not every team played last week, we get that, but statewide right now, Garrett Weir and Dominic Murtaugh are ranked when it comes to receiving yards. That's got to feel good, right?
Yeah, absolutely. We actually threw the ball a lot more than when I went back and watched film. Obviously, I should know when I'm calling the plays, but I'm like, God, we did throw the ball quite a bit. And those guys, Garrett made an unbelievable catch on that 1 yard line, and then Murtaugh on that 4th down kept running his route. Eastwood showed how calm he can be in the pocket and made that great pass to Murtaugh, who made a great catch. It's really good as an offensive coordinator when you feel like you have not one guy that can catch the ball, but 4 or 5 guys. So that kind of just opens up the playbook.
Well, you certainly do have all those athletes, which is exciting. Now, let's switch to, obviously, this game against Potsdam. First question that I have for you about this game, Coach, is what is the offense that Potsdam runs? And I ask that because I've been confused over the last 7 years because I've been trying to explain to people on the radio, it's not really triple option, but they do run like a triple option team would a lot more than they throw, right?
Yeah. So in the past, for I don't know how many years, 15, 20 years, seems like they've run that. It's like almost like a version of a wing tee. They have the ability to spread it out a little bit. But I know Massena used to run that. Back when I was in high school, that's what we ran, like a version of what they run. Basically, they're running the ball, 90% of the game. They're relying on their offensive line to get a push. They usually do have a big, tough offensive line, and they usually have at least one guy that can run the ball really hard. But like I said, they do when they have athletes. He does like to, spread it out a little bit. But their kind of motto is they're going to run, they're going to get 3 yards. They're going to run, they're going to get 3 yards, and they're going to run and get the first down. They'll try to lull you to sleep, and then they'll try to boot and throw one over your head, and they're good at it. So we got to keep our defensive backs, in the game because they might not be in for 4 or 5 series, and then all of a sudden they boot out and throw it over their head, and these guys are trying to get in the play, and they're, it's the old football cliche of do your job, right? My outside backers can't be worried about the dive, and my middle backers, have to focus on that dive before they go get that jet sweep. And the defensive backs only need to be concerned about, the deep ball. So it's all about kind of separating your jobs and not trying to do too much, right?
Mm-hmm. Now, Coach, as far as this week of practice is concerned, obviously you've kind of had some Mother Nature factors to work in with the heat and everything else. What have you guys been doing to kind of beat the heat, but also how do you prepare for this Potsdam offense when you know they run something a little different than everyone else does?
Yeah, so Basically, we always kind of fall in this kind of predicament when we play a team like this. We can't. It's impossible to have our scout team kind of demonstrate the speed and just the toughness of kind of a wing T team. It's just not. It's not possible for us. So we're walking through their scout plays. We're seeing what they do. We're aligning correctly. We're prepared if they spread it out, how to line it up, or how to get in all of our different coverages if they spread it out. But mostly we're working on like individual block shedding, refreshing on tackling, obviously. Reading keys is a big thing, right? You can't be a ball watcher because you can't really see the ball. So there's specific keys that we see in film, and just kind of playing them over the years, whether it's the basic reading guards or reading fullback. But yeah, it's definitely going back to the basics of individual kind of group stuff, reading keys, shedding blocks, making tackles instead of just running plays, because it's hard to simulate. So we don't get too much out of that, if that makes sense. And as far as the heat, we were unfortunate as far as the heat index. We weren't able to go outside per se, but we did get lucky enough to use the Massena arena, and it was nice and cool in there. And I would say we got 2 awesome practices Tuesday, Wednesday, and we got a workout in Monday, so we weren't outside Monday anyways, but we made the most of it. Tuesday, Wednesday, the guys were focused. We got to do all of our special teams. We ran some plays, defensive stuff. So it's better than being in the gym. We got the opportunity to go in the arena, so that was kind of awesome.
Yeah, that's always great to have those community partnerships to be able to make things like that happen when you need them for your team. Coach,
Exactly.
Obviously you have a pretty good running back yourself in Carter King. You kind of put the section on notice, in my opinion, last week. If this thing comes down to 2 battles of running games, how do you feel about your running game?
Yeah, I feel great about Carter. I feel great about the guys up front. I think I know each week they're just going to get better. I told the guys I threw a lot in during camp as far as like running plays, passing, but we threw pretty much almost everything in, and it was a lot. We got some head spinning, but I'm like, guys, this is pretty much everything with a few things left. We're not going to run everything, but it's our job to now focus on this and get better each week. So kind of that's our goal, is that obviously, as it starts with the offensive line. If they're understanding their steps and their blocks, it's going to make Carter's job so much easier. And I told the offensive line, you get Carter a yard and a half, and he's going to get us 7, 8, might break a big one. We can't really do much. Even the best running backs can't do much if we're giving up our own line of scrimmage. So it starts with the guys up front. They had a great week of practice. They're understanding the concepts more. They're not just memorizing plays. They're understanding concepts, which I think we're stressing, and I know it makes a great football player to understand concepts. And yeah, Carter's a beast. So the goal is get him a yard and see what he can do with it. So
those big fellas up front, just real quick, can you name them for us? Because I wanted to give them some credit this week.
We have Jake Lindstedt, who's a captain at left tackle. We have Brandon Barnes at left guard right now.
Nolan Jensen, a senior, at center.
We have Ethan Lacombe at right guard. We have Darian Coates at right tackle. A couple guys that'll rotate in, possibly, but those guys pretty much went all game against Saranac. And that's another big thing, is some of these guys need to get used to not only playing both ways, but playing at a high level both ways. So that's going to be us as coaches to keep them in shape, and keep them focused all game long.
Last question for you, Coach, because I know you got to go. So your defense last week, I can't say enough about them. I mean, they had a tough task going up against a 6'7" receiver, and I mean, I'll say it because I know that you're probably too humble to say it, but they shut them down last week. I was very impressed. Obviously for your defense, how impressed were you by that performance? And just kind of remind us again, what do they got to do in order to stop that Potsdam running attack?
Yeah, so last week they for the first game, which is scrimmage week, I was just looking for toughness, kind of like I said before, and that's what they showed. They showed being focused. They trusted Coach Morrow's calls like they should. They were just in the right place. They kind of simplified the game. They did their job, and they just showed toughness. I'm a big believer of it's got to be as complex as it needs to be. I think I was talking to you before how, when I came to volunteer, almost 10 years ago now, I tried to make it too complex, and it just doesn't need to be on the defensive side of the ball. It needs to be as complex as it needs to be, and just let these guys play. Let these guys show toughness. We had a couple different calls that we installed as far as double teaming that guy. Dominic Murtaugh was the guy who was double teaming him, and he played him tough. He's a very athletic kid, and he played him tough. So we're going to be able to use that in the future. If there's anybody else that we need to double team, yeah. And just moving forward to this week, it's going to be. I think it's going to be a completely different offense. Again, I'm not sure. Potsdam's got different athletes on this team than they did last year. I think they're going to throw the ball more than they did last year. I don't think they threw the ball once last year. We're prepared to match up anything spread. I'm not 100% sure what they're going to do, but either way, again, I keep saying it. It's toughness. It's trusting the play call. It's simplifying the game. Yeah, it's just toughness.
All right. Well, we want to thank Coach Zappia for taking the time. Folks, get ready. 7 o'clock on Saturday, Massena at Potsdam.